What's going on, big dogs? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite show, my favorite show to record, and that's Market Watch Mondays. I am your host, as always, at Mike Me Up with 2 P's on Twitter, aka Mike, aka the Pro Scout of the Bird app. Last one's a joke, but y'all know if you know me, follow me, you're in on the joke. If you aren't, hop on Twitter. I'll show you what it's all about. Thank you guys for hopping on here. I just got back from a full day's adventure. We went out on the river. Me and my girlfriend and her friends are visiting from out of town. We did some whitewater rafting. So you can't tell, but your boy's got some sunburns on his face right now. So down here in his cheeks, I'm too lazy to reapply sunscreen basically. So I always get fucking burnt when I stay out in the sun for too long. But it was a fun day. Went through some rapids, camped out along the riverbank and ate some lunch, and just a good time all around. Anyways, I say that all to say this. I'm back now in the studio. It is, 9:30 p.m. here, recording for y'all. There's no way I was going to miss or delay another episode in bike-to-bike weeks, so I got to make sure I came on here, hop on the mic, record the content, deliver it for you all on your screens, on Labor Day weekend, same fucking time, 5 a.m. EST, 2 a.m. my time. That is how we do it in here. So I got to record this episode, hop out, edit it, and then pop it up there for you guys. So, trying to be reliable, man. I haven't missed an episode yet. I delayed a little bit on the last week because of what I went to do through in New York. But, we're back on track this week, man. We're back in the office, and it feels fucking good, all right? But before we get to the content, y'all know what time it is, man. Hit that intro. All right, this week we got some good stuff to talk about. It's a little bit of overlap from what I talked about with Scott, but I think it is a topic that definitely bears repeating, and I want to dig in a little bit deeper on it, and it syncs up really well with the timing, and it's the 2022 rookie class and 2022 rookie picks. And the reason why I want to talk about it, those of y'all know, college football is fucking back, man. It feels good. It feels good. We got real football Friday, Saturday. Next, we're going to have a Sunday, Thursday, Monday. Fuck, we might have football every goddamn day of the week, all right? And nobody's complaining other than our wives and girlfriends. Okay, that's it. Everyone else, we're in the game. We had some freaking dope games this weekend. I love seeing the new prospects back out there on the field, playing, hustling, and look, man, it's been nice. And the beauty of college football and all that stuff is, like, honestly, there's so much information to decipher that, like, I feel like nobody really deciphers all that. I mean, I know sure as hell I do not. I mean, I rely on other guys that follow the game and know it much better than me, and I take in info from them as well. But there's a lot of information going on out there, right? But you can already feel the hype in the atmosphere, right? Zach Charbonnet, massive run where he's carrying dudes on his back, breaking tackles left and right, looking like the rookie Zach Charbonnet that we used to know before John Harbaugh and Michigan took the fucking joy out of the game from him. So love to see that boy balling out. But anyways, I say that all to say this, right? This entire offseason, all I hear is the 2022 class is too shallow. It's not going to be that strong. The 2023 class is where it's at. Blah, 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 fucking blah, man. Like, you hear it in trade negotiations. I see it on Twitter. I see bad advice on Twitter all the time. People are like, oh, yeah, you guys should get out of the 2022 class. We saw the same shit last year in 2021, right? What happened? COVID happened. People are like, let's fade the 2021 class. Players aren't getting enough playing time. Yada, yada, yada. It's a bunch of bullshit because every year, the next year, what happens when the draft hits the clock and you're on a rookie picks, everybody wants fucking rookie picks. It's like clockwork every single year, and yet people go through the same bullshit cycle and come up with all these narratives and these bullshit things that nobody fucking knows. And, it's just, I'm getting tired of it personally, but watching the college game as I see it every week makes me very confident in my belief and my, I will call it, advice to you all to keep fucking snatching up 2022 picks, right? Because people say it's shallow. And look, is it as deep as 2023? I don't know, because we can't project freaking 30, 40 players deep this far in advance in 2023 and 2022, right? But here's what I do know. There is enough studs in 2020 in the 2022 class before this week even started for me to be comfortable acquiring a lot of those first-round picks, right? And I don't want to get into the ranks specifically. If you want to get into ranks, go hop on the Patreon. You'll see my devy ranks in there for you. But there are some studs that are already available in that 2022 class, okay? But even beyond that, there are guys that are going to emerge that we either didn't know about or that we like wrote off from years past that are going to creep in. And the way that the 2022 class jumps up in value is, one, the season just continues to be played, and that's going to happen, right? Barring some catastrophic, COVID news, the season is going to happen. We're going to watch the players play. People are naturally going to get hyped because it's on their screen. It's front and center. It's facing them every single week, and it's going to be hard to ignore, right? And then the other part of it is if the running backs and quarterbacks are better than what people expect, you're going to have a really, really special class, and it's going to be a lot deeper than people think it is, right? And the reason why people say 2022 is shallow is because they don't think that there is going to be very good running backs, right? And if we look back a couple months ago, there wasn't, right? It was just Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and those are really the only top two guys that people are talking about. Don't get me wrong. I love those guys. Those are my top two guys. And I've loved Isaiah Spiller for a fucking long time. You go back on Twitter, check the receipts. Isaiah Spiller's been that dude for me. And Breece Hall, the great Ray JQ turned me on to Breece Hall, so I've been following him ever since as well. But those are two running backs, right? But there's other guys that are very, very interesting in this class for me, right? Kyren Williams played tonight. Notre Dame versus Florida State. Now, did Kyren Williams blow the fuck up? No, he didn't have a fantastic game, but he did have a good game on the receiving end, right? And that is what a big reason why I was big on Kyren Williams. He went 18 carries for 42 yards on the ground, which is atrocious. But if you guys watch the game, you'll kind of see that. But he had 6 receptions, 83 yards on the receiving end. And that's the appeal for Kyren Williams. He can get it done on the ground, right? Don't get me wrong. He was a stud last year when he was on the ground as well. And that's why he got put on my radar just looking at his production. But I think, he had 211 carries for 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns and 35 receptions for 313 yards. The receptions number is what interests me the most about a Kyren Williams. And I think he is going to be someone that can be a force in the NFL. But he's not talking about much, right? All you hear about is Isaiah Spiller and Breece Hall. So there's Kyren Williams, who's interesting. And there's another guy, Zach Charbonnet, who I just freaking talked about. This dude went to transfer from Michigan to UCLA and has been going ham. All right, I have him in a couple of my campus Canton leagues. So I'm like, hey, this guy's a really good prospect. He put up pretty good rookie production. He kind of fell off the face of the earth while playing at Michigan, much like every other Michigan player, because that's just how it is. And then he transferred to UCLA. New change, new environment, new offense, and he's looking like a fucking beast. I don't know how else to put it, but he's got prototypical size. Unlike Kyren Williams, who probably has some size concerns, and I get it. Look, people are a little bit concerned about his size. I'll come back to that a little bit later. But unlike him, Zach Charbonnet does not have any of those concerns. He's a 6'1", 220-pound running back, all right? But so far this year, his stat line's actually a little bit ridiculous. So first game, 6 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns, all right? 1 reception, 14 yards. Second game, 11 carries, 117 yards, and 1 reception for 35 yards. So he's literally averaging 13.1 yards per carry right now, which is insane. That means he's averaging more than a first down every time he touches the ball. Now, obviously, we want to see him get the ball more, and as you get more touches, that number is clearly not sustainable. But it goes to show, right? A little change in environment, a very talented player coming into the class is now showing, again, what he was worth. And I don't see any reason why we could not talk about Zach Charbonnet as a future day 2 pick if he continues to ball the way he is. So again, another unforeseen guy that jumps into the fray, that boosts the class a little bit more, right? And then we also have Zonovan Knight, who plays for NC, and he's also starting off a pretty good season to his year. And he was someone that I think were on a lot of people's radars already. He had a decent season last year, but he kicked off season opener and went fucking ham. 16 carries, 163 yards, touchdown, 2 receptions for 16 yards. So there are a couple of guys like that, right? Who, there's a clear top 2 with Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, don't get me wrong, but there's a couple of these other guys that are kind of emerging in the fold, and there's also Eric Gray, who a lot of people are a big fan of as well, who has the opportunity to kind of go ham and boost his draft stock as well this year. He's another more prototypically big size back. I mean, he's a little bit bigger, 5'9", 206 pounds, so he'll probably hit the BMI threshold that BMI lovers love to see. He played for Oklahoma. He didn't do too much in the opener, but just another guy to monitor. And I think, again, just right there, you have like a nice group of like 4 to 5 running backs that can kind of like push that like tail end of the first round or even the early second round pick value. So these are the types of things where like people don't look at this and they don't know this before the season started, right? So everyone thinks the class is incredibly shallow, the class sucks, yada yada yada. But once you start breaking down the players, you start kind of seeing like a lot of value in a lot of these players, right? And then we look at the wide receivers. We have Garrett Wilson, who's an absolute fucking stud, in my opinion. He's my wide receiver one of the class. There's probably some conversations between him and Traylon Burks and David Bell. George Pickens, obviously, always in that fold as well. But that's like 4 guys right there that I named that are potential first-round picks, right? And then that doesn't really include, some people like Chris Olave. We all know Justin Ross was a freaking baller as well back in the day who got hurt. So that's like 4 or 5 wide receivers, 4 or 5 running backs, and we haven't even talked about quarterbacks, right? So we have, obviously, Sam Howell, right? We have Spencer Rattler. Those are the top 2 guys, but Spencer Rattler is my top guy, actually. Probably my QB1 in devy overall, but also in the 2022 class. And then we also have a couple guys that are coming back from the fold, right? So Keaton Slovis is someone who I really, really loved last year. And he took a little bit of a dip last year, but he came back strong this year again. In the season opener, put out a freaking lights-out performance. So it's just a lot of these guys. That's 3 quarterbacks, right, that are pretty good in my eyes. And then there's other guys that can really sneak in there, right? You have Matt Corral, right? Carson Strong, who I went on Twitter and, my homie Jared Wackerly over at Dynasty Nerds was posting a couple clips. I was like, hey, is this a really good throw? Is it a bad throw? I was getting educated on them. And basically this guy was dropping dimes. So, there's a couple other quarterbacks that can kind of really sneak in there. And a Matt Corral, a Carson Strong, a Malik Willis, who's kind of got that Konami code in him to kind of sneak in. So there's like 4, 5, 6 other QBs that can kind of flirt with day one draft capital. So if you add all that together, right, 4 or 5 running backs, 4 or 5 wide receivers, another, maybe call it conservatively 3 or 4 quarterback, you've rounded out your first round, and that's before even considering a lot of these other guys that aren't even being talked about yet, right? And that kind of sneaks into your second round. So I just want to reiterate this point because I don't want you guys dumping the 2022 class right now because you're projecting it to be weak or you're projecting it to be shallow. Because one, I've shown you that there's a sufficient amount of players to actually drive depth and value. But more importantly, there's a lot of unknowns that we can't even account for yet. There are going to be breakouts this year that we have not accounted for yet, right? There's going to be guys that come out of nowhere. And wide receiver-wise, I'm not really interested in those guys that come out of nowhere. But like, there's going to be running backs that come out of nowhere. There might be a quarterback that kind of emerges out of the fold. Although it's probably going to be one of the Carson Strong, Malik Willis, those type of guys that they don't come out of nowhere, but they're going to go from, not really that value to more of a household name, right? So these are the types of moves you're looking for. And when we talk about high leverage assets and high leverage picks, running backs, rookie running backs, and rookie quarterbacks are those positions. I'm talking specifically for super flex leagues, of course, and those guys are going to drive that value. So, I think this running back class might be a lot more underrated than people are saying. It's not like, we don't have a Bijan Robinson. We don't have, one of these Jahmyr Gibbs or Tank Bigsby, like those locked in fucking studs, right? But we have a nice group of talented young players that are good and very much above average that will and most likely be contributors in the NFL, right? So it's not to say that this class is going to be 2023. I'm not making that argument. I told you guys go out and get those 2023 picks starting like 2 years ago. But what I am saying is there's more than enough good players. And when those players come in and when you see rookies start getting drafted and their ADP starts creeping up over the course of the offseason, that's why we want the picks now. The picks now are still cheap. And I see too many people fading 2022 rookie picks. That's why I want to cover this in another episode separately, like just with me, because I feel like it just deserves that type of dedication, is there are so many good and talented players in the class, and it feels like people are already counting the class out, and it just doesn't really make any sense to me, right? People are already looking at 2023, and I think I get it. Look, you always want to shoot for the upside. You want to shoot for that class that's dominant. Like nobody's preached that more than I have, but it's gone a little bit too far. Like I'm in some trade negotiations, people aren't even interested in second round picks in 2022, which also blows my mind, right? Like snatch up those 2022 seconds. Why? Because the more seconds you accumulate now for dirt cheap, the greater the odds you have of flipping those seconds into future first, whether it's 2023, 2024, 2022, whatever. Like, when you're on the clock, it becomes a lot easier to take, like, let's say you get one of those seconds and it's like an early second, right? I've seen this trade many times. An early second in the current year class being traded for a future first. Now, you might not get 2023 because that class is loaded, like I said, and the hype has reached all-time highs, but that's not to say you can't take a 2022 second and trade it for a 2024 first. That trade, I guarantee you, will be there for you come next year's draft. I've done it many times. I've seen people do it many times. It's just always there. And I've seen people do it for 1 year in advance. So getting it 2 years in advance, people aren't thinking that far ahead. And you have essentially bought 2022 first for cheap, 2022 seconds for cheap, even cheaper, like dirt cheap, and then flipped it for a fucking 2024 first, right? And maybe you have to add something. Maybe it's a 2022 second and you add another 2022 second and you get a first and like a first and a second in the future year, right? And those trades will always be worth it, right? Pushing that value forward and just accumulating that time value accrual, just simply by waiting and having your picks go up in value. And that's exactly what you can do now with the 2022 class, right? And it just blows my mind that this happens every year and people overlook it every single year because it seems so basic to me, and it seems like table stakes, and yet every year we go into the same patterns, right? We go into the same patterns, and it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? But I do want to take 1 second to just talk about someone that's going to become one of my guys in this class, in Kyren Williams, right? Kyren Williams is someone who's very intriguing to me because it feels like he's not really being talked about amongst the top prospects in the class, but he's been producing like one of the top prospects in the class since he was a sophomore, a true sophomore last year. And now he's a junior. I'm hoping he declares, obviously. That's another gating item to get through, but I've never been interested in a Notre Dame running back the way that I am interested in Kyren Williams. And it is just because of how good he looks when he's on the field. He is not someone that goes down on first contact, and we love the type of guys that can force missed tackles, that are elusive, because it means they're creating for themselves. That means when they get into the NFL, they'll be able to translate a little bit easier. But secondly, like I said, his receiving upside. We love receiving upside for running backs. Why? Because a target is worth way more than 2 times more than a carry in fantasy scoring points and opportunities. So when it comes to Kyren Williams, right, a lot of people always say, look, just because they didn't do it in college doesn't mean they can't do it in the NFL. And that's absolutely true, right? But I would much rather see a guy do it in college, right? And that gives me the comfort for them to do it in the NFL. And Kyren Williams in his sophomore year had 35 receptions for 313 yards. And in his opening debut of this year, he had 6 catches for 87 yards. So he is someone that I think is going to be super intriguing for me. He's currently going in like the second round of devy startups. I think that's a little bit undervalued just given the type of profile he gets. Is he going to be like that true workhorse, right? Is he going to be a Saquon Barkley? Is he going to be an Ezekiel Elliott? Probably not, because he's a little bit undersized. He's about, I think he's listed at 5'9", 195 pounds. So maybe he puts on some weight and gets to like 205, and he's a little bit of a smaller back. So he's probably more in that like Aaron Jones type of build, right? But size isn't everything, right? Like I said, this class isn't littered with a bunch of studs with prototype size like it is for 2023. So after Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, you kind of have to pick your poison. And for me, for Kyren Williams, it just kind of comes down to the fact of what we like, betting on talent of a good player, right? When it comes down to it, I care about receiving upside, I care about his ability to break tackles, and I care about the talent at the end of the day a lot more than I just care about the size, right? And obviously, all else equal, I would love it if he was a 220-pound back, right? But if he's a 220-pound back that doesn't do what he does now, which is catch a lot of passes, I'm probably a lot less interested, right? And from my perspective, and I had a little bit of debate on Twitter about this, I just feel like he's someone that probably has first round upside from a rookie perspective, right? He probably goes in this on day 2. That's what I hope. If he goes in day 2, I think he has like late first round upside, and he's just someone that's not being talked about that much. And someone that has late first round upside, I feel like should be going a little bit earlier in devy drafts. But I don't know. That maybe that's just me. I feel like Kyren Williams is going late. Like I see him go in the second round sometimes. Something goes in the third. He's just someone that I've been keeping my eye on because he is someone that you can get next year, right? And as much as I love the 2023 class, they're not gonna fucking put points on the board for you until 2023, right? That's 2 years away. A lot of shit can change in 2 years. Well, those guys can bust, they can get injured or whatever. But Kyren Williams, if he continues to ball the way that he has, he's coming out next year. And I could see myself using a first round pick on a Kyren Williams depending on where he goes, right? And here's the thing with workhorse running backs, right? Like everyone wants a workhorse running back. Everyone wants guys with prototype size. But even guys with prototype size are not necessarily like workhorses or all bell cows, right? They're not necessarily all bell cows. Like if you look at those other guys, Nick Chubb's in the committee. Jonathan Taylor's in the committee. Here's the thing. The NFL is just a bunch of committees, right? There are very few CMCs, Saquon Barkley, and Dalvin Cooks in the world, right? There's very few of them. That's why they're worth so much. But that's also not to say, like, there's no value outside of them. There are Aaron Jones in the world. There's Austin Eckler's. There are Alvin Kamara's in the world. Now, I'm not saying Kyren Williams is any of those people, but I'm saying there are situations where, size isn't everything. A smaller guy can come in, go into the league, and produce, and work in a committee and produce, right? And that's very possible, especially when they have a skill set similar to him where you can come in, you're not going to be a workhorse back, but you're going to be involved in the receiving game, and you're a good fucking player, and you can eventually work yourself into like a lead committee role with high-value touches on the goal line and in the receiving department, right? So I think that's what makes Kyren Williams so interesting to me. Shout out to at FF Ball All Day, who was the one that actually put me on this kid a while back, and I was like, hey, like this guy's got the production. Let's take a look at him, take a closer deep dive, and see if he's all that. And based on what I've seen so far, he is all that. So let's take a look at how the Notre Dame season goes, how his season goes. But he's someone that I'm definitely keeping my eye on because I feel like, I've gotten him in a couple of devy drafts and Campus of Canton drafts already this year, and I feel like he's just someone that I could see being a very, very quick riser between now and the draft, right? And even after the draft. So those are the types of moves that I like to make, and those are the types of players I like to keep track of. And then, one other thing I want to talk about is shooting for upside in devy, right? Like how, like everyone always talks about shooting for upside in fantasy. I feel like for devy, I have a little bit of a different approach, right? So I'm all for shooting for upside, right? And I love grabbing high upside players, but it feels like, the way that we treat rookies in the NFL is kind of getting translated to the way we treat freshmen or like people that haven't really had started or have much experience in college. And I don't think that translation makes a lot of sense to me, at least as of now. Because there's so many more hoops that those devy players have to jump through in order to become relevant, right? The NFL rookies, once you get the draft capital and it's all set, like you are already kind of relevant. Of course, they can bust from a production perspective, but that value is a lot more insulated. So me, I feel a lot less scared of investing resources into rookies. Whereas for devies, it's like, to like put all your chips in the basket of a freshman running back or a freshman wide receiver or like a freshman quarterback is really, really tough for me. And like a lot of people use like 24/7 rankings, they use recruits or whatever it is. If you go back and look at a lot of those top recruits, like there was a lot of flameouts, and rightfully so, because it's a very, very hard game, right? And we look at someone like a DJ, right? Clemson. He struggled this week, right? He started off really slow. He looked lost. Didn't look like, people basically took Trevor Lawrence out of their devy rankings and immediately inserted DJ into their ranks. And they're like, this is the next guy. And one, it gives you a great appreciation for how good Trevor Lawrence really is and how good that team was with him. But two, it really made me pause and think like, hey, like, are we moving too quick on the devy side, right? Should we be so quick to prop up rookies in the ranks like we do in the NFL side with freshmen in the devy side? And my answer so far is like, no, that's not really what I'm going to be doing personally, just because like there's just too much risk involved, almost with those guys. That for me to like take a true freshman like kind of in the first round of devy drafts. Travion Henderson is a very, very popular player. I actually took him in the Alphas Only League because I like the player as well. But it feels like he's already locked into people are already like, oh, is he already the, running back 2, devy running back 2, devy running back 1, devy running back 3. And it's like, wait a minute. We got Bijan Robinson out there. We got Jahmyr Gibbs. We got Tank Bigsby. We got Breece Hall. We got Isaiah Spiller. Guys have been balling out like for a couple of years now and look like they're going to get the NFL draft capital. Like, how do we leap this guy ahead of him that quickly based on one game? And trust me, like the reception he had was incredible play. Like he burst through the hole and it was just incredible burst, incredible speed, and everything you want to see. But it's like, does one play really like sway you and confirm your priors like that heavily that, hey, this guy's the top recruit. He made that one play and now he's like that guy? I don't know. I mean, I have Travion Henderson on my teams. I'm fucking excited, but I'm not really ready to make that leap yet. Maybe that's like a boomer mentality for me, right? Maybe I need to like jump into the deep end with some of these devy guys. But to me, I've yet to see anyone with good enough hit rates to warrant that type of confidence, right? And for me to push all the chips in and really take on that risk and dump my assets like that and really put all my draft capital into these guys, like I need to see some sort of process or someone that's been doing it successfully enough for me to actually warrant that. And nobody that I've seen exists. Like, in some of the best guys out there don't exist. I remember when everyone was talking about Eno Benjamin was like a top running back, right? He was a top running back, and look what happened. You can't even hold. You can barely hold him on your dynasty roster anymore because shit changes so fast in college. And I had Ray GQ on the episode, and he explained to me really well is that college is not like the NFL, right? In the NFL, you bring in a running back, and you don't want to spend too many more resources on that position, right? Because you get your guy, and you have 1 or 2 guys, or 2 or 3 guys, or whatever. But college, coaches don't care about making guys starts. Coaches care about winning, and they're gonna bring in the top guys every single year. Every single year, you're gonna get top competition. So if you do not live up to the hype, you will flame out very, very quickly. And it makes sense, right? Like all the top schools, like Alabama, Ohio State, they always get the top recruits year after year after year after year, right? Georgia, right? These are all the top schools that are getting top recruits. They're always going to have the top competition. So it doesn't make sense to me when you have 2 very different systems and 2 very different treatments of talent that we're going to take the same risky approach on the fantasy side for NFL that we do for devy, right? And that just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And I'm personally not going to be doing that approach. And by all means, I'm not the devy expert, right? I play in a lot of devy leagues. I've had some success, but like there's other guys that are way more experienced than me that know a lot more than me. And maybe, part of that is, they think they know more at the prospect eval side. But if you guys know me, you know this. My process is not just based on me trying to pick out me being better talent evaluators than the next guy, because I'm not going to win that game, right? For me, it comes down to the process and the strategy and the theory behind what I do, right? So when I think about this type of problem within the devy space, I do feel like people are taking on too much risk chasing upside. And that's hard for me to say because I'm always about upside. You guys know me. I'm not a very risk-averse person. As long as the calculated risk and I think it's worth it, I'm going to take that risk like more often than not just in fantasy, but in my real life, in my investment profile, everything, right? That's my approach to life. But when I look at the devy side and I see all these top recruits that flame out, I see all these top recruits, even like a Zach Charbonnet who bounced back. Like he was a top routed prospect, right? And he went in, did well his freshman year. He stunk for a little bit his second year, and that's it. Everybody wrote him off, right? That's how quick the thing changes in devy. And that's before he even got to the NFL. That's before he gets to the combine. That's before someone like an Elijah Holyfield goes and runs a 4.7 and is an afterthought and never talked about again in fantasy, right? There's so many more holes and hoops for a freshman running back to run through, get through, to get to your NFL roster, to become relevant, to hold value, that for me to just push all that risk in early on without seeing much, it just does not make a whole lot of sense, right? I just can't see a world where I take a Travion Henderson over Jahmyr Gibbs or Tank Bigsby. Obviously not Bijan Robinson. Nobody's talking about that, but Jahmyr Gibbs or Tank Bigsby. I really don't see a world where I just take a Travion Henderson over like a Breece Hall or an Isaiah Spiller. And he very well may be the next Bijan Robinson. Maybe next year, people will say he will be that. And people will be like, see, I told you so. But then I just go back to similar like how like people treat like when people like try and dunk on analytics, they're like, oh, well, you guys missed on Terry McLaurin. Oh, you missed on N'Keal Harry. It's like, yeah, we missed on Terry McLaurin for sure, but you guys fucking missed on 10 other guys taking that same type of I'm the best talent evaluator approach that you're trying to do now with that player. So that's not showing up. And similarly, it's like, yeah, we had a Bijan Robinson for sure, right? But before Bijan Robinson, we had a ton of other guys that busted out and flamed out. And the amount of draft capital that went to those other guys clearly offsets, for me at least, the one hit or two hits that you get in like Bijan Robinson, Trayvon Henderson. I will wait till a later date to trade for them, whether they hit the NFL, or I will gain exposure by accumulating those rookie picks and draft them that year. But I just don't feel comfortable pushing my chips all in a first round devy draft for a true freshman running back. It's just not really in my DNA, right? And when it comes to devy, I'm all for upside, right? But I feel like devy is a space where we don't know that much. There aren't that many great devy players. Like we're not as well versed in devy as we are on the NFL side. We don't have the same type of numbers, the same type of rigor, the same types of analytics that goes into it. So because of that, I'm going to try and protect value on the devy side. That's usually my approach. It's like similar to how I protect value by investing in rookie picks. I try and protect value on my devy side. I'm trying to get players that I think that are going to have high draft pedigree, that are going to hold value over time and hopefully increase in value over time. So I'm going to draft for the most part, really high-end wide receivers that have already shown production, because those tend to be more sticky, right? If you've already broken out as a true freshman, if you've already, like a Keyshawn Boutte, right? I have no problems investing a high draft pick in a Keyshawn Boutte because he broke out as a true freshman. He's a freaking monster and is already shown out as monster. A lot of people are talking about him as a top prospect already as well, so the hype is building there on the market side. So those are the types of things I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to get like a Breece Hall. I'm trying to get an Isaiah Spiller, guys who have already produced. I'm trying to get a Bijan Robinson, who already was a freaking monster as a true freshman, has a prototype size, was a top-end prospect. He's one of those serial winners I'm talking about. And you know what? If Trayvon Henderson goes out there and pumps out a few more games, I'll pay up. I'll pay up to grab him, and I'm fine with that. I'm always fine with acquiring a player a little bit higher than others. I don't have to be first, right? I don't have to be first into the parade as long as I'm not left out of the parade. That's how I think about it. I don't mind paying up a little bit so I can enjoy the rest of the ride up. I don't have to be the guy that gets Bitcoin at like 5 cents. I'm fine with buying Bitcoin at freaking 10K, 20K, 30K, as long as there's more room to grow, right? That's how I always think about my types of investments in players and in Dynasty and in Devy. And I think I'm going to take that same type of approach. So for me, I talked about a lot of things here, but like I feel like the rookie rush of the NFL is carrying way too heavily over into the true freshman rush of Devy. And for me, it's just way, way too risky to kind of like push all your chips in for some of these guys. Now, if you get them at a cost that makes sense, like I drafted a few freshmen in the alpha leagues. I felt like we were in the middling to late middling rounds or late double-digit rounds. Like those are the times where I'm like, okay, well, I'll fire there because if I miss, it doesn't kill me, right? But when you burn like first round Devy picks, that's rough, right? That's rough to come back with. So I say all that to say this, right? Don't give up chasing upside. That's not what I'm saying, right? But you gotta take calculated risks, right? It's not a chase upside at all costs, and it feels like that's where we are, both on the NFL side, but even on the Devy side, and it damages you so much more on the Devy side because we fucking suck, right? Everybody, me, your favorite analyst, whoever it is, we're not that good yet at Devy. It's a new space, right? It's a new thing that we're all trying to get a hold of. We're not that good at evaluating college prospects yet. Maybe we'll get there. We'll get to the same rigor of NFL as we get on the college side. Maybe someday, but we're not there yet. So without the data, without the process to back it up, you just simply, in my opinion, cannot push all your chips in that recklessly, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with Devy. Hopefully you guys found that helpful as well. Both just making sure, again, do not dump or sell out on 2022 first. It's way too fucking early. But also, you got to take calculated risks and be smart with your draft picks. Be smart with your drafts on the Devy side as well, because reckless abandonment in chasing high upside is how you burn draft capital really, really fast. And that's not a recipe for success in the NFL. It's definitely not a recipe for success on the Devy side as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, took away some tips from this episode. If you did, Go on down, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the notifications button as always so you know when the next video is popping up. And lastly, as I always say, if you want to get up in your dynasty game, if you really, really want to step up as a player and become a true dynasty theory guru, hop on over to the Discord, patreon.com/ourpack. Connect the Discord, hop on in and chat Dynasty with us, man. I'm always in there. The folks are always in there. It's a really, really smart and sharp community. In my opinion, one of the best communities, but I'm biased. Hop on over there, support me, support the group, join the community, and become a better Dynasty player, right? That's what it's all about at the end of the day, is improving your process, improving your game, and dominating leagues and winning money. That's what I'm all about. Hopefully that's what you're all about if you're on this channel. And if you're not, you're probably at the wrong place, all right? But anyways, that's all I got for you guys this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, I will see you again on Market Watch Mondays. Peace.